Hey,
Hey, you can hear me okay and everything?
yeah,
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's
yeah.
really exciting.
Thanks for willing to do this.
Oh, of course, of course. I watched the interview with you and Amanda, and it was so nice.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Yes, yes. Okay.
So I could just jump around then with your career and everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You can jump around, ask whatever. We're good.
So I know that when you did get to Chicago, what was the television pilot that you did? I couldn't find really much info about that.
Oh, yes. So when I was in Chicago, I was on NBC's The Playboy Club. And that was the pilot. Well, actually it got picked up and we had
Yeah,
like 3 episodes that aired before they got canceled. Um set in the 1960s, the classic Playboy bunnies. It was a lot of fun for me because I was originally brought on as just one of the bunnies, but they then realized I was a dancer, and so they started having me dance in different episodes. And so I got to dance with Jenna Dewan. Yeah, some really cool people. So yeah, it was a really fun time for me.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess with all the different horror movies you worked on, do you have a single favorite?
Oh my gosh, I love them all because for different reasons. Even the ones that seem like absolutely ridiculous. And by the way, anybody who's watching like my horror films are like, they're so ridiculous. We knew what we were doing. They're NDB horror films. But oh geez. I really do love Three Slices of Life. It's kind of a horror anthology that we did. Just because our segment, Pink Snapper, yes, it's exactly what you may be thinking it is, was just it's so over the top. And I get bloody a lot. Like, I mean, I do a lot of not just films but also like stage performances where I do like weird dancey performance art. I cover myself in blood, but this was by far the bloodiest I have ever gotten. So that one, and then also the one that I had produced and created with Breakwall Pictures called Rose White. It was based off of experiences that I went through as a young child, and also it's just a fairy tale, dark fantasy sort of thing. So that one's very special to me too.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
I wasn't able to. I did watch the trailer of it, but Lewis, the short film was
Lewis,
pretty cool.
yeah, Lewis is fun because it has like that whole grindhouse vibe. We
Yeah,
shot it as if like those super ultra low budget grindhouse films people used to go and see, and it has to deal with the occult and everything. So yeah. By the way, if I have any like younger under 18 folks watching this, you guys maybe don't check out those films yet. Not yet. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun too.
Mhm. So was LA always the end goal for you?
No. So it's very surprising actually that I'm out here. And I've been out here for almost 10 years now, and I still like go, "Why am I in LA?" Cuz I never had the intention of moving out here because I started off and my background is actually ballet, classical ballet.
Right.
Um I had always anticipated and wanted to go to New York. And when I had my foot injury and I struggled with dancing, on a professional level, which I still dance, but ballet is its own thing. It's so demanding. Um, I thought maybe I would be doing theater or like Broadway shows. So I always had the idea that I would be in New York. So going to Chicago was kind of like my stepping stone to then eventually go to New York. And it just didn't work that way. And I kind of randomly do things. I'm very impulsive. And I had just decided, okay, you know what? After I did the Playboy Club, I had a taste of like film and television, and I always wanted to do voiceover. And while there's voiceover in Chicago, there's not the animation that's available, here in LA. So I was just like, let's go to LA. And after just like a few months of saving up money, I just moved to LA. And yeah, it was just one of those things where I was like, why not? Let's go out there. There's all of that stuff for me to try. Yeah. So here I am, and again, it's been almost 10 years. It's kind of weird. But yeah. You just never know where you're going to end up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you felt like that too. You're like, what am I doing in my life right now?
Hmm.
It just happens.
Do you have a special SAG story, or is it pretty general with you?
With SAG, oh, so I actually it is kind of an interesting story. I was when I was in Chicago, I did a commercial, a T-Mobile commercial where I danced. I got hired on as a dancer, and they had to Taft-Hartley, which means they basically will take you even if you don't have like the credits or anything like that, and they basically are just like, okay, now you're SAG eligible,
Yep.
so you can join SAG whenever. And so I got it pretty easy. That doesn't happen a lot. I just got very lucky that this particular project needed dancers, and I was a dancer. So I got lucky. But then it took about 8 years for me to even join SAG because it's one of those things where, unless you're doing a lot of union projects, it's not really worth it. And still at that time, for several years, the majority of my stuff and trying to get into like voiceover and everything was non union. So it wasn't until I had a project that was originally non union that turned union that I had to join. And
Mhm.
so that kind of, kicked me in the butt and was like, okay, Deneen, it's been a while. You better join. So yeah, that's my story. And it's very interesting when you talk to actors. Everybody's story is different. Like some people like join right away. Some people will like save up, their vouchers and stuff like that. So, but
Mhm.
that was my story. I got very lucky. I when I even like entertained the idea that I was going to have to join the union at some point, I thought it would take a while in terms of me getting like the vouchers because that's how it I
Yeah.
don't know if that's how it works anymore, but before you had to like do certain jobs and I just got it right away. So I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll take it. I'll take it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does look like, based off what I saw, that you started taking like anime slash ADR classes pretty early on.
Well, so when I moved, it's so funny. So I moved when I moved to LA. One of my intentions was again to get into voiceover, and especially anime because I'm an anime nerd. I grew up with it. I was a teenager and a young person sitting in my bedroom watching Toonami and Adult Swim and watching like anime that was on a sci-fi channel and everything. So I was also like muting my video games. I was playing like Chrono Cross, which didn't have voices anyway, but like any of the Final Fantasy games, I would like voice them. So I always had that desire to do it, and it just didn't click, until later in my life that oh yeah, you can do that. So, but it took a while because when I moved to LA with that intention, I did get wrapped up in theater and performance art. And I do remember Caitlin Gout, who's amazing. She's an amazing voice actor and now she directs. We were in a play together,
Oh,
and that was about like 9 years ago. And I remember turning to her at one point during rehearsals and going, I want to be a voice actor and I want to do anime, and she remembers that because it was so just like, this is what I want to do. Again, then it took a little bit for me to get into it because I was so busy. I was so busy with theater and dance. And then eventually I found that they had anime classes at Bang Zoom.
yep.
It's the Adventures in Voice Acting. And I started taking classes with Tony Oliver. He's amazing. Dora Fine, who runs it, she's just so encouraging to all of the students who want to join. And through that, it happened rather quickly. I got to do a read for Mami Okada, who's the casting director at Bang Zoom.
Yep.
And ever since then, I've been working with them, on and off throughout the years, consistently, and they've been great. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It was just like, I want to do anime. Then there was a little bit of a pause, and I was like, oh, yes, but there's these classes. Okay, let's take these classes. So
Mhm.
I did, and yeah. And I recommend them to anybody who's watching who wants to get into voiceover. Even if you have years of acting experience, that's great because that's exactly what you need. I always tell people acting is the basis of what you need. But ADR, learning to do that dubbing, is crucial, especially if you want to do anime. It's hard. So if you can take the classes, go for it. Do it. It'll be worth it, I promise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What is
Sorry, I
cool?
kind of ramble.
Oh, it's fine. What is cool, especially that you probably know too that I mean it's great that people like Julie Madalena are still actively working in
Yes.
it because I remember her in like working in Ray Earth and
Yes.
series like that.
Yes, I actually have done private lessons with her, and I love Ray Earth. So I remember, like, when I first took her class, that was the bizarre thing. Like, because I'm a little bit older than, like, some of the other students who are, who were taking these classes, these performers who are teaching now, these teachers, they're fantastic. But I remember them from being, again, like a teenager and obsessed with these anime shows.
Yeah.
Whether it was Tony Oliver, Julie, or like Crispin Freeman, I was like taking classes from Crispin, and I was just like, I know you. You're amazing. And it's just kind of surreal. Ezra Weiss, who I work with a lot on Ladybug,
Yeah.
I can remember both Ezra Weiss and Steve Staley, who have not only both given me instruction, but also have directed me on things. They are in Outlaw Star, which is one of my all-time favorite anime shows. Outlaw Star is amazing. And
Yeah.
then to like go and like be directed by these actors is just surreal. It's so surreal. Yeah.
Were you into a Fushigi Yugi?
Not as much as some other animes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I love it, but
Yeah.
it's like I was more into like Vision of Escaflowne is my favorite. And
Yep.
then I like some like Serial Experiments Lane, I feel is so underrated. Like
Yep.
people who love it, but then I'll always bring it up and people are like, "Huh? Serial Experiment what?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's awesome. You should watch it." I like a lot of the fantasy stuff too, like Ray Earth and
Yep.
Magical Girls, but then I love Outlaw Star. It's Evangelion, like that was a big one for me too, which was weird
Mhm.
because I'd go from watching like happy like Sailor Moon or something like that that's very cute, and then I'll be like, now I'm ready for some angst. Let's watch some Evangelion.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What was one in terms of anime was one of your first character parts in Testament of Sister New Devil?
Yes, that was my first one ever.
Okay.
So it was interesting. I mean, anybody who's seen the anime or is familiar with it knows it's a little mature. My my character Rika, she's such a badass. Like she's not a huge character, but it was the first time I was ever doing anime. And it was the first time that I had like it was my first time in the booth doing anime, and also she had lines. She actually had some lines. Like sometimes people start off with walla and incidentals. So she's special to me in that regard, and she's kind of a badass. She tells the bullies, you better stop it. I'm like, yes, Rika, but it was great. Yeah, it was a good like gateway into anime from that point,
Mhm.
like getting to have that experience.
And I guess
But
would your first experience on JoJo be pretty early too?
yeah, JoJo was not too long after Testament, and that was fun because uh, I just got an email that I was cast in JoJo's, and it's like, oh my gosh, like JoJo's is so insane. And I love my character. I got to be one of the trio with Allegra Clark and Jen Losi, who are both amazing. And yeah, then I found out later that I was cast as another character in JoJo's, who was Minako Akura, who was so much fun. I got to tap into my horror roots on that scene. Not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't watched it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. So that was probably, yeah, closer towards the beginning of, because I haven't been doing it that long. It's probably been about like 3 or 4 years that I've actually been working in anime. So that was probably, yeah, that was towards the beginning.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, touching on your answer, what do you think is the case, or where you had to get the darkest headspace for anime?
The darkest headspace I've had to get was actually for ReZero, where I play Pandora, because she's absolutely. I tend to play a lot of more uplifting, happy, like cutesy characters, even in serious animes,
Yeah.
like even like Evangelion. There's another show that's coming out where it's more serious, but my character's a little bit more like, oh, she's just so positive. So Pandora was completely like not what I typically play. She's cute sounding. She's a little girl, but not really. But she's so dark, and the things that she does is so terrible.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil again anything for anybody, but if you've seen it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And it was hard for me because there were some days where I was recording Mari in Evangelion or Zoe from Miraculous Ladybug. And both of those characters are more, even if they have battle scenes, both characters tend to be a little bit more, not so,
Yeah.
well, Mari, but, so I would be recording those and then having to go and do Pandora, who is totally like just calm and dark and creepy, and she's doing these terrible, terrible things. And yeah, I had to get into a whole different headspace like that. That's one of the tricky things about voiceover or acting in general is sometimes you may not even know, you know, what you're going to do until you're in the booth. I was lucky because there were already episodes of ReZero out.
Yeah.
So when I was cast, I already knew who Pandora was and I knew what to expect. But it was still hard to get into that space, but you never know, you got to be ready for it.
Well, in talking about characters that you relate the most to, do you think it is in Ava?
Yeah, it would be Mari. When Joe, when I found out I was cast and I went into my first session with Joe, they were like, "Oh, yeah, you pretty much are that character in terms of the personality." And probably I would just have to say this: if I was a character in Ava, I always related to Asuka. She's always been my favorite. But now that I've played Mari and seen how she is, I was like, oh yeah, I guess if I was in that universe, I would be that one. Kind of like the weird girl that everybody's like, what is her deal? She's weird. She's weird, but she doesn't care, you know.
Mm.
Um, I what I love about her too is they do something so terrible, they're piloting these Avas and it's just like it's not fun, but she finds fun in it, you know.
Right.
She finds a way to she has fun doing it and I'm like I would hope that if I was ever in that situation, I would be able to find fun in it. It's like I take that and I'm trying to apply it to myself in LA traffic, trying to just like, okay, you're in LA traffic. You got to do this. Have fun with it. It's
Yeah.
not working, but I'm trying. Trying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel in terms of, yeah, I could really feel her, like, especially her scenes with Asuka. And even the scenes with Shinji in terms of like my friends and stuff, I could apply myself in that situation. I've been there where it's like trying to just be there for your friends. I kind of call her like the mom friend, she's like the mom friend. She's the cool, supportive one. And yeah, I relate to that a lot. She's just a good person.
Mm-hmm.
She's a good person. She's a mysterious person and kind of a wacko sometimes, but she's a good person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find it easy to connect to Arabel too in SAO?
Oh, yeah. So she's a little bit more meek than I am. She's a little timid. But I really do relate to her like sense of justice and how she wants, she wants to do the right thing and she's very loyal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I love that about her. So while she is a little bit more shy and meek and probably a little bit more formal and ladylike than I would ever probably be. She's still very, very much like that side of her that's just like, and she's so determined.
Yep.
That's what I love about both her and Tisei is that, we kind of see them down here. And then as the series progresses, they go up here. And anybody who's read Moon Cradle or anything like that, they know that they end up kicking ass. So, oh, can I say that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, good. Well, they do that, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure,
Mm-hmm.
kids. That's fine. They've heard worse. If you're watching anime, you've heard worse.
Right. Well, vocally speaking, what do you think the case where you've had to alter your voice the most?
Where I've had to alter my voice the most? Probably anything where it's deeper and lower. Because as you hear, I have kind of more of a higher register. So a lot of characters that even go higher, like the Kwamis and Miraculous Ladybug or Pandora or Ronye, where they're kind of up here, this is actually really easy for me. That's so easy for me. But the ones where I have to be down and in my chest voice and stuff, I can do it, but it's definitely harder. It's also because typically those characters tend to be very different than what I would normally play. if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
it's like it's not just the voice, it's also the character type. So I have a couple of characters where I'm down here, and it's hard, but I do it cuz that's what you got to do. So yeah, I would say example, I have some characters coming out again. NDAs can't say, but I have a couple that are down here in the deeper register. Characters like my Linux from Eternal Return. She's fun because she is, well, she was former mafia and she has these tattoos and she looks like, a crime boss. She's actually really wholesome. So
Mhm.
I didn't have to be too intense, but it was still like, yeah, they're like drop it down. So I'm like down here trying to, this is a lot less natural for me than being up here. So, yeah, any character where it's in my deeper range is is definitely more difficult.
Mhm.
But you do it and you work through it, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's definitely easier for me now than it was when I first started and was like getting used to my voice. It was like I mean, sure, I could do a whole bunch of characters up here, but that would be boring. So,
Mhm.
yeah. And I do have to say, I love playing those characters, though, that are deeper and lower and so different than me, because that's why I'm in acting and why I want to be an actor. I want to experience, all of it. I don't
Mhm.
want to just be up here all the time. Yeah.
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 Well, I don't think there's been a case with the anime, but have you gotten the opportunity to do boy voices for anything yet?
Yes. So there's been a few. Um, there is. Oh, I have to think about it. But yeah, I did voices for an audio drama called the Admiral Balderdash, where I played Penny, and that was my first boy voice, and he was so much fun. And then a couple of like Walla and incidentals, meaning like the one-offs where I get to be the boy. So typically I don't get to. Oh, I was in Katuri, which is a animated thing with all the animals. So anybody who sees the little deer, that was a little boy deer that I got to be. And that was actually really interesting because when they cast me, they actually thought it was a girl deer. They didn't actually like see the footage yet. They were just like,
Oh,
"Oh, a little baby deer, Deneen." And they just assumed it was a girl. And then when I went in, it was with Julie Madalena. She was like, I hope you can do a cutesy little boy voice because you're actually a boy. I was like, oh, I got it. If they're young and cutesy, I can do it. It's a little bit more of a struggle once they start to get to the angsty teenager years.
yeah.
Like there's some voice actors who can just like go there, but with my voice and everything, it's a little bit harder once they get older. But yeah, the younger ones I typically play.
Mhm.
Cute little cinnamon rolls.
Yeah.
Those. Yeah.
Well, I have found that um, ever since I've been asking that question, that people's processes for that are so interesting. Like Kari Walgren said that
Oh yeah.
she does a James Brown impression to like start things off.
That's smart. I typically, for any voice, not just boy voices, for any voice to really get into character, I will sing songs in
Okay.
that character voice because I feel like if you can sing songs and maintain that voice, you're good. You're
Yeah.
golden. And for boys, it just depends. Add a little rasp, yeah, a little rasp. Try. It's a lot of it too is for me there's a difference between, unless you're playing like you have your tomboyish girls, so but most girls tend to be a little bit more demure or whatever. The boys, it's how you go about it. They're usually scrappy and stuff like that, and so you're putting that into your body and in your energy, and it's just going to come out sounding more like a little boy,
Mhm.
opposed to a girl. So a lot of it, if sometimes I've played both a boy and a girl in the same scenes for like incidentals and Walla and stuff like that, and some minor characters. The difference is because I'm in the same scene, it's just how I hold my body and how I project and present it that'll differentiate them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, it is what I was going to ask next. Has there been many cases where you've gotten to perform with yourself?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It happens all the time in Ladybug because I am several characters in that. So especially when it's the Kwamis, which are the little fairy animals, I'm two of them. So sometimes they've had scenes where they'll literally just like roll it, and I will jump from character to character just like as the scene's going. So that has happened. Um, yeah, there's been quite a few things where I've voiced like two characters who then end up interacting with each other. And typically I think like I said, Ladybug I would just jump, but that's different. Typically what I prefer is to record one and then go back and record the other one so I can like react to myself.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh, okay. And it happens a lot in live action dubs too, and that's tricky because live action dubs, you need to try to sound natural. I mean, it all needs to sound natural, but because you're dubbing over a living, breathing, real person performance, that's always hard. And so, like, whenever I've had to act, you know, two different characters in a live action dub, that's been a little hard. It's
Hmm.
like, okay, yeah. But I typically like to do one character and then the other character. Unless it's Ladybug, where I just jump between Kalki and Mulo because I've done it so much now. It's
Hmm.
just like, it almost will sound like I'm talking to myself, yeah, in the booth, like doing crazy voices. Like, I'm sure if somebody like just heard that, like if I was walking down the street doing that, they would be like, okay, avoid that crazy person. But yeah.
Yeah. And most people that I've talked to who are in Pokemon Masters just got autocast. Was that
Yeah.
your case too?
Yeah, so I was, but I had auditioned for several characters before I got selected for May. And they actually cast me for her based off of another audition. So yeah, I was so happy too because I was getting to a point where I really wanted to be in the game, and I had auditioned for a few characters and didn't get cast, and I was like, "Oh, I'll never get cast. I will never be in Pokemon Masters." And then I got, the notification that I was, of all people, going to be playing May. They had selected me and wanted to use me for May, who is just like an amazing character. Like, I was blown away, actually. I was like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
May? Okay. Forget all those other characters I auditioned for. This was worth it. Yeah, it was worth it. So typically in like from auto casting and stuff, a lot of times it's because they have heard your voice, whether it was other auditions or, the casting director has like your voice sample and sends it to them and says, "Hey, I think this person might actually be a good fit."
Yeah.
So it's a good thing and that's why I always say, voice actors, do your auditions. Even if you think a character doesn't suit you, do it. You never know what's going to happen from that audition. It may not be that character. It may not even be that project, but something may happen. So go for it.
Hmm.
Because yeah, that's been my experience with quite a few characters actually. Patience. I just did a tweet about that because it's so true. And I think it goes for anybody, whether you're a voice actor or not. Like, as somebody who's a very sometimes impatient person, patience pays off. Feel how you feel. You can feel frustrated. It's We're human after all, and it's normal, but patience does pay off. Just keep at it and stay patient, and yeah. Yeah. I think that's good advice, maybe.
Hmm. Well, I would guess too that you were a fan of the Fire Emblem franchise when you got into it.
Yes, that was actually one of the projects that I was hoping when I first started getting into voiceover. I was hoping to eventually be in Fire Emblem in some capacity, uh, just because it's been around for so long, and it's like everybody knows Fire Emblem. So I was really hoping to be a part of it, and I actually auditioned for over the course of 2 years. There weren't a lot of auditions, but I had gotten auditions, kind of throughout 2 years and never got cast as any of those characters. And then finally, Marcia came along and I read for her and got cast. And it was just so sweet because when I went in, they were like, "We've been waiting to get you in this game." So again, they hear you. This is what I tell people: send in your auditions. These people hear you. You just never know what's going on behind the scenes.
Hmm.
And I just was so happy with it because once I started, voicing her and playing her, and again, it's not like we get these really deep storylines or anything, it's just little things. But I was like, oh, yeah, this character suits me so well. Like, I'm glad that they waited, and I'm glad that I waited and was like, I kept with it to get this character. I love Marcia so much. She's so silly and fun. And I liked her pink hair. Like when they showed me the artwork, I was like, ah, yeah, I like her. And she's on the Pegasus. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yes, as the unicorn fantasy loving person, of course I would want to be the pink haired, cutesy Pegasus Knight. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was really excited to get Fire Emblem.
Was that Caitlin, Patrick, or Christian directing you?
Caitlin. So it was like a very we've been friends again. I mentioned her earlier. We've been friends for so long. She was actually one of my first real like friends out here in LA.
Hmm.
So we were friends before either of us got into voiceover. Like so we go, back 9 years, and yeah, it was just like this nice little full circle where we were performing in this stage show together where I was dancing and acting and she was acting and delivering amazing monologues, based off of poems, and it was amazing to, all these years later after expressing that I want to do voiceover and that, she had all of these goals and stuff that were here in the studio recording something for Nintendo. It was amazing. It was just like this full circle of
Hmm.
stuff. So I was very excited when I found out she was directing. I was like, hey,
Hmm.
my friend. My friend is directing me. This is so cool.
What were your thoughts about? Because she has some really funny lines, like saying like "oh crackers" and "irresponsible skunks," stuff like that.
I know. It was just, it's so funny because, like, a lot of, so at least the auditions and stuff that I had gotten prior to that, they're very stoic and serious, and they're all determined, and there's a couple of funny characters, but she was just so different. So it was fun to be able to say lines like that and to kind of just be, I felt like I was being again kind of more of myself, like letting my own personality come out, in the character. Like, if I was in Fire Emblem, that would probably be me being frustrated with my brother or my friends or whatnot, and just like.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It was fun to mix that with, like, her battle stuff, which some of her battle stuff was still really silly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was fun. It's fun to play characters like that are rather different, than the norm in a
Hmm.
franchise like that. Yeah.
Yeah. This was going back to talking about singing. Did you do that? Did you get to do that for D4DJ?
No. So
No.
for I do like to sing, especially like children's music and songs and stuff, things for that. We did not get to sing for D4DJ. Which is fine because you know what? The actual idol singers are amazing, and Photon Maiden is the best group. I'm not just saying that because, Saki is in Photon Maiden, but they really are. They're great. But I think sometimes, like, they will have the actors, the English actors, dub the songs in English. We just didn't. And that's okay because I am crossing my fingers that one of these days I'll get to be in an anime or a show where I will get to sing. And yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Did I get to sing? Oh, I got to sing a little bit in Evangelion, but that's more just like she's not like belting it out.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping one of these days. That's one of my goals, I think, is to be in like an idol anime or a magical girl anime or something like that where the character gets to sing, or like
Hmm.
a Nickelodeon show or something for kids. Yeah, one day. Put that out into the universe.
Well, do you have like a if like a new series comes back, or do you have like a legacy anime that you want to be a part of?
Well, yeah. I have to say though, like talking about that, I had never thought I'd be an Evangelion because I thought
Yeah.
if I'd be in any type of like show that I grew up watching, it would be like one of the cutesy magical girl shows. It was so strange, but Tokyo Mew Mew is coming out, and yeah, that something like that would be a dream to be in. Also, I love Love Live,
Okay.
and I have been wanting to be in a Love Live for a bit, but legacy animes, like, it's so hard because I have so much love and respect for the show, what has already been done.
Right.
Just like with Evangelion and stuff like that, even though I got to be in it, I have so much love and respect for what was already done, whether it was the original ADV dubs from, the series, or if it was the Funimation dubs, which I got to watch, after we had recorded. So I have so much respect and love for those that it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I want this anime to come back so I can be this character. But Serial Experiments Lane, if that ever got a remake, I would love to be in that in some capacity, because again, it's one that I think is just so different and unique.
Yeah.
And so that, again, Tokyo Mew Mew is coming out. Ray Earth would be fun. I love it because it's like, the whole kind of medieval fantasy,
Yeah.
like, yeah, stuff like that. So I would love to be any part of something like that. Escaflowne is my favorite, but they've already redubbed it. They don't need another redub. They don't need a remaster. It's already perfect. So I'm leaving that one alone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many. I think genuinely, for myself, I just have so much love for all of this. And I love so many different franchises and things that, like, I would probably be thrilled. Oh, Digimon. I would be thrilled to be in Digimon. Like, I love Digimon. So, you see, as I'm, like, saying this stuff, I'm thinking of things. I would probably be thrilled to be a part of anything that, like, got, like, a remaster or a remake or anything like that. Just to be any part of it would be amazing. And I would be so honored and excited. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Any of it. Just, I would be so grateful. Yeah,
Oh,
Digimon.
well,
I can't believe I forgot Digimon. I'm like, yeah, Digimon would be a huge one.
yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, with how much you like Lane, are you a fan of Bridget Hoffman in general?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I what I love about like Lane though is because it was so, at least like me being a young teenage girl, it felt so like relatable and different. So anything like that I can relate to, and I love so as bubbly and unicorns and rainbows and magics as I am. I did horror films for a reason, because I'm also very dark and surreal and I like stuff like that. Like, I
Yeah.
just saw Crimes of the Future and I was like, oh yeah, I chose that over like Top Gun Maverick. Like, I was like, Crimes of the Future. So I like anything like that.
Yeah.
That is anything kind of artsy and weird and darker, and like, yeah, that's my jam. I love it all. Unicorns, rainbows, glitter, but also that stuff. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like, my performance art tends to be kind of based more
Right.
on that type of stuff. It's weird. Anybody who's came to see like a performance of mine is like, I knew you were weird, but that was like really weird. Yeah.
Well, hopefully when Chainsaw Man comes out, you'll get to be part of
Oh,
that.
yeah,
That's
Chainsaw Man is great. I know I have so many friends who really, 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 really want to be a part of it. And I'm like, oh, yes, I hope that you get to be a part of it. I mean, I have to be honest, though, the anime that I'm really, really, really hoping for and crossing my fingers is Dance Dance Danseur.
okay.
I've been posting it all over my Twitter, and that's just because as a dancer, as somebody who still dances professionally, but was trained and raised in that world of ballet, I it's like I'm watching the show and I'm like, I know exactly what's going on
Hmm.
in these characters' heads. I know exactly what it feels like to be in a ballet school like that, and to be that, have that kind of training and expectations as a young dancer. So, I mean, yeah, I would love to be in Chainsaw Man because it's weird and wild. But if I had a dream anime right now, it would be that one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. If you haven't watched it, you don't have to like ballet. Like,
Right.
it's just really good. Like, the characters are so relatable. They're great.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
recommend it. Everybody who's watching, watch it. It's so good. Dance, dance, dance. So good.
So is there anything else that's upcoming that you're part of you can safely talk about?
I can't. Yeah. We signed those pesky NDAs. I do have some things that are coming out I'm really excited for. So some of them I may have to wait, like, you have to wait sometimes years for them to come out, but that's okay. I have other ones that are coming out relatively soon.
Okay.
Of course, everybody already knows about, some of the shows that I'm a recurring character in. So I may or may not be coming back in those. So, yeah, I wish I could. It's always so hard. Like voice actors and actors in general and stuff. We want to talk about it, but we can't.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, before my final question,
Yes.
if I type out a line, could you say it as Marcia?
As Marcia, sure.
Okay.
Let me put up the chat. Irresponsible skunks! Ike is my man!
Thanks.
You're welcome. I had to keep that together. I was like, okay. That's fun. Yeah, I love her. All of the skunk stuff is hilarious. I was like, is it really? Is that what I say? Okay. Here we go. Yeah. I was like, it's so different than being like, here is my blade of honor. I shall fight you now. Ha! It's very
right.
I was like, I loved it. It's so fun.
Well, my final question is always asking, what do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? I don't even know if I need to have a legacy or anything like that because, I mean, it's that's a hard question because I don't really I never really thought of that. I mean, I just hope that people I have some performances that people like and remember, right now because again, I've only been doing it for about 4 years. That's not very long in the world of voiceover. I haven't had the opportunity to really have that character, I think, yet that will really stick, because either I've come in as May or Mari, who have had other voice actors, so I'm not the original voice actor, or I've had characters that aren't, at the forefront. So I would like to have just some characters like that people are like, oh yes, Deneen Melody, that would be nice. But at the end of the day, I hope, that, this is a hard question, Chris. I just want people to like and appreciate what I bring as an actor, to my characters and my projects. And also as a person, I hope to be a good person and to do good things. And yeah. But people don't have to remember me. I don't need a legacy. That's fine. Just as long as the people who are close to me, love me and remember me, that's it. But again, it would be nice to have that character or a couple of characters that people really associate with me and will remember that. Because just like I was saying, there's characters I will always remember Ezra Weiss as Fred Lowe in Outlaw Star. I mean, I will always remember that, so stuff like that. And I love all of the actors for Evangelion, but I will always remember Amanda as, Ray, and Tiffany, who I just love, as well as Asuka, and Spike as Shinji. So it's just to have a character like that people will be like, oh yeah, again, Deneen Melody, that character, I remember.
Yeah.
Well,
thanks. I'm glad that we got to do this.
Oh no, I'm so happy. Thank you for, again, I watched some of the interviews. Amanda's was so great. She's so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was so kind. She really is. I just have to give her a shout out. She really is such a loving, kind person. The first time I ever met her or Tiffany was when we did our little screening for Evangelion. We got to do a little private screening, and I had never met them before. And Amanda just was instantly after we watched it, I come out and she's just screaming my name, and she's like, I love you as Mari. And she gave me this huge hug, and it just again, as somebody who grew up watching those and knowing those actors as those characters, it made me feel so welcome and wanted. And Tiffany as well, and Spike have just all been so kind and so arms wide open and welcoming me into the mix and everything. So yeah, I loved watching that. And I went through and I watched a couple of others. I watched Ginny Yokobori because she's a good friend of mine. She's so sweet. So yeah, thank you again for having me on here. It's an honor. It really is.
Yeah.
I say that a lot, but it is. It's
Oh,
such an honor. Thank you.
yeah, no problem. Well, I'll be sure to send it to you once I have it up, of course.
Perfect. I will post it. And again, everybody who's going to watch this on YouTube and whatnot, thank you so much. I see you guys. I appreciate your love and your kind words. And it always means so much to me when you reach out. I see it. I appreciate it. I love it. So thank you. Mwah.
Okay. Have a good Saturday.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.